Congress and President Trump just signed into law the latest funding bill, and with it, a $40 million cut to the ATF's budget. While this isn't the massive cut that the Trump administration and the House proposed, this still represents the positive trend Gun Owners of America and our allies in Congress have been fighting for. 3 years ago, when Biden was issuing all his gun-grabbing executive orders, did you expect that we'd take a bite out of the NFA and cut the ATF's budget twice? Stopping all growth of this tyrannical agency is just the next step before we abolish the ATF once and for all. Today, we're going to take a look at the past few years and how we stopped the ATF from becoming another one of those $2 billion government agencies and what our plan is next. Hi, I'm Ben, and you're watching the Minuteman Moment. Before we get into the video, I wanted to take a second to talk about GOA's 50th anniversary. It's been an amazing 50 years of no compromise, and we're not stopping anytime soon. So be sure to be on the lookout for special events this year to celebrate our history and to look to our future of protecting gun rights. Okay, now back to the video. Unlike the rest of the federal government, the ATF's budget has actually shrank in recent years. That's due to the hard work of GOA and our allies in Congress. Much like the rest of the government, since its creation, ATF's funding had historically only increased. From 2019 to 2022, the ATF's funding had been steadily increasing, from $1.4 billion up to $1.75 billion. And in 2023, President Biden's administration asked for $1.875 billion. This trend of an extra $100 to $200 million per year would have made the ATF well over a $2 billion agency by this point. That would have meant more ATF agents attacking your rights, inspecting and shutting down gun stores for paperwork mistakes, and thinking up brand new ways to infringe on your rights. In fact, the historic first ever cut by GOA and our allies in Congress of $122 million was actually $200 million lower than what the Biden administration requested. So an even larger cut than what the agency was expecting. Now, that agency has to dump all of the extra agents and infringement programs they'd planned for. These cuts aren't only about reducing the current funding levels, but stopping the expansion and any future planning the ATF had. In the next year, ATF requested $1.95 billion. It's really bold of them to ask for more money after getting a smackdown from Congress and GOA. Again, while Congress did not pass a new funding bill for the ATF and instead maintained the $1.6 billion from the previous year's cut, this funding staying stable represents a cut of $300 million. Most of the time, Congress more or less approves whatever budget is given to them by the president's administration, especially for quote-unquote law enforcement agencies like the ATF. Bucking that trend and having Congress take a good look at preventing the growth of this weaponized bureaucracy is a win on its own. But on top of that, it means over the past 2 years, your calls, emails, and activism backing up our federal affairs team on the Hill and in meetings with members of Congress have, first, prevented the ATF from becoming a $2 billion agency. Second, stopped over $500 million from going to the ATF. And finally, we showed that slashing the ATF's budget and not giving them more and more taxpayer dollars every year would not have an impact on public safety. The violent crime rate has been dropping in the past few years, just like the ATF's budget. For years, we've heard screeching from the anti-gunners that if we cut the budget for this very important law enforcement agency, then crime and gun deaths would skyrocket. Well, that's obviously been proven false by the past few years, and this is important because it convinces more moderate Republicans and Democrats not to listen to the fear-mongering of these anti-gun organizations and think critically about the agency itself. This is absolutely a victory, and every single one of you should be proud of the part you played in taking on the ATF and the government funding regime head-on. But there are other things to consider as well with the total ATF's budget and funding. For instance, both President Biden and President Trump both approved pay raises for all federal employees. Yes, even the tyrants over at the ATF. That means the existing employees' salaries have grown, and the agency must dedicate whatever funding they have for salaries towards that instead, especially since we haven't seen any growth in the ATF's budget. And with inflation, those dollars aren't worth what they used to be, making working for the ATF a worse and worse career choice. That means less new employees, less training for new special agents, and even potentially having to let go of employees in order to comply with Congress's budget. And on top of that, the section in the funding bill to speed up the e-forms approval process also demands that the ATF dedicate more and more resources to that instead of other programs. You know, like inspecting barrels to see if they're too short, brainstorming the latest crazy gun confiscation idea, or even planning raids against American citizens. While the work to defund and abolish the ATF is not over, Gun Owners of America, our members, and our allies in Congress have been laying the foundation to make this idea a reality. Stopping the growth of the ATF while the rest of the federal government has continued to balloon, while also taking chunks out of their funding, is the first step in getting rid of this agency forever. Now thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with GOA's latest fights for your rights.